You have a lot of so-called experts. You've got some that have promoted themselves. They've put themselves out as an expert. And the average everyday person, and by the way, this is a creation pandemic, not just America. It's so important, saints, that we not only say that we're covered by the blood, it's important that you know that you're following the instructions of the one that made you. You see, we have been, I don't want to use the word guilty, but we've been negligent in looking at the scriptures as almost as if we're studying a course in high school or college. Many of us study it like you would biology or even mathematics or history. But his teachings and instructions were written for us to live by. For us to live by. Yes, it's helpful if you can repeat it, but you must repeat it with comprehension, with understanding. And I always like to hark back to like a minor bird or a parrot. They can repeat what they heard, but is there any understanding? And see, people of faith, we need to be more than just a parrot. Torah should be demonstrated through our life and our lifestyle, the decisions we make, the things we do, the things we don't do. Let it be his instruction based, not by what you think or even what you believe. Not in who you are have an affinity for. Not even for the position that they hold in life. Let Torah be your reasoning for doing or not doing. Because see, he said, what? I said before you life and death, blessings and curses. And then he gave you the answer. He said, choose life. So why are we debating? Listen, we need to, if it's a health matter, why would you listen? I would not listen to my dentist about how to repair my car. Okay? If it's a medical issue, I want to hear from someone that has devoted their life to that. Not necessarily a local leader. Not necessarily a national leader. They don't have the expertise. They haven't put in the hours of study. Now, when it gets to their area of expertise, give an ear. Life would be a lot less complicated if we stopped trying to mix everything together and say, God's got it. God made it. We are our own worst enemy. It's not Hasatan so much. Yes, he's got a part. But for a lot of us, he's getting his popcorn ready every day to see what we're going to do to bring more stress and detriment in our lives. He sits back and he's like, man, this is easy. This is like shooting fish in a barrel. Come on, let's see what they're going to do today. We need his wisdom. We need his wisdom. He foresaw all of this. And only he knows how it's going to end up. And all the prognosticators, fine. If that's how they want to spend their time, that's fine. And there's a lot of good information out there, saints, particularly on the internet. But saints, not everything on the internet is factually based. Unfortunately, worldwide, now you can't tell a newscaster from a political pundit. And see, back in the day, when they would do what's called an editorial report, they would put on the bottom of the screen, editorial, which made you aware that this is this person's opinion. This isn't news. But see, now, again, we've meshed everything together. For those of you old enough, a lot of us remember who Walter Cronkite was. And Walter Cronkite, he reported the news. And for years, he was considered one of the best, but they have an award that they give to reporters called the Edward R. Murrow Award. And Edward R. Murrow was quite a news reporter in his own right. But you know, the difference is when Walter Cronkite reported the news, and he was on for a lot of years, they never knew what his political persuasion was. It wasn't until after he had retired, he had gone off the air, that he said more than often than not, as if it mattered, he said more often than not, back then he voted Democrat. But see, people never knew. But nowadays, even in the house of faith now, everything's divided by political persuasion. And that's sad. That's sad. Again, I tell you, return to his teachings and instructions. Opinions are like noses. Everybody's got one. And in this country, you certainly have the right to express your opinion. But we also have the right to not have to listen to it. Everybody that gets before people, remember, the people are sitting here because they choose to. The Proverbs of Solomon, the son of David, king of Israel. Let me say something here too. In these perilous times, yes, family is important because that's part of my heading, but I'm telling you something, saints, bloodline is more important. Let me say that again. Family is important. Bloodline is more important. It appears in scriptures, if you go back through the scriptures, and many of you have read it ad nauseum, the Most High seemed to follow the bloodline. The bloodline. When you turn into the Older Testament, so-and-so begat, so-and-so begat, so-and-so begat. See, and a lot of times, because the way we came in, we thought, oh man, I ain't reading all that. It's important. It's important. See, a lot of our issues come from our bloodline. That's why you choose what you choose or don't do what you don't do. That's why some of us do what we should do and some of us don't do what we should do. It's in your blood. Which again brings up the importance of being careful who you let in your personal space. And this is for every age. Listen, to know wisdom and instruction, to perceive the words of understanding. And we all know the story about when Solomon was a little guy and the Most High came to him and said, hey, I'm paraphrasing, what you want? He didn't ask for the newest sword, and he said, hey, give me wisdom, give me teaching, give me instruction on how to deal with these great people. And he said, hey, since you didn't ask for a whole lot of other stuff, I'm going to give you that and everything else to go along with it. See, we're not hopefully following Torah just to get more stuff. You can get more stuff following something else, if that's your main impetus for following Torah. Our hope is that our real reason for following Torah, following his teachings and instructions, is so that we can avoid some of the landmines. Notice I said some, because none of us are getting through this thing totally unscathed, which is why it's so important that we're very careful about how we talk about where we live. You're bringing more stress into your life. All of us are having a hard time. The whole system has been turned on its ear. And somebody said that several years ago, and they weren't a prophet. We have got to get out in front of this thing, and I'll be sharing some things with those of you that got a few minutes after this streaming. To receive the instruction of wisdom, justice, and judgment, and equity. Even the concept of repenting. Most of us think repenting, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, but I'm not going to give you the money back I stole from you. Then are you really sorry? I'm sorry. I'm so sorry you had to see that. Are you really so sorry that am I really sorry that you saw that, or am I really sorry that I got caught? That's not repentance. Along with repentance is a thing called restitution. See, we do word studies. Well, I'll tell you, and that's wonderful, but to be able to live today, look up some of the words in English. It's got a lot of definitions too. And the reason I say that is because you're living in an English-speaking nation. And in business, the whole world uses English. I'm dealing with reality here, folks. We've got to learn how to live with the pandemic, whether they come up with a virus or not. We have to learn how to adapt. We've got to be mobile, agile, and wise, not plotting against people, not strategizing to do harm to somebody, but keeping you and your bloodline safe. There's a war going on, but it's not the kind of war churches are preaching about. It's not. And see, people like to change the narrative all the time, believers and non-believers. I look at this situation with that young man, Colin Kaepernick. It was a news reporter, pundit, liar. I'm sorry. No, I'm not sorry. But it was somebody on the news that reported the reason he was kneeling. And they didn't give the reason he really was kneeling. They said it was against the flag and they threw in the military. Why did they do that? Because they know in America, you don't talk about the flag and you don't go against the military. That was done on purpose. And so when a certain pair of ears hear something like that, and then they start saying it, and again, let me say this too, because the Most High set up government, okay? He set up government, but the reality of it was he really wanted to be king in our lives. But at the time, we don't want a king. So he gave us a king. And then the kings did what they did. Some were good, some weren't so good. Some were qualified, some were just flat out fell into the position. So over in Great Britain, little history lesson. A lot of the people that were, some were indentured servants, which that's another term that we don't talk about a lot. Some were indentured servants. Some of them were the worst people in society. All of this is dealing with Proverbs. All of this is using his wisdom. See, when you start looking at life as we know it, but you filter it through Torah, you start seeing stuff a whole lot clearer. And you know what's interesting? 2020. Remember that show? That show was dealing with taking a deeper look at the situation. And you know, I said, and again, I'm not claiming to be a prophet or anything else, but I'm saying it is interesting that all of us are getting to take a closer look at ourselves, what we say we believe, how much we believe we live. And it's also granting us an opportunity to take a second look at one another. But not in the way that most of us might think. Because when we take a second look at one another, we have to re-examine our relationship to the person that you're taking a second look at. Because they're in your life by your choice. For some of you. Some of you have had things kind of forced on you. But if you don't speak up, you get what you get. I'm telling you, there's a whole lot going on in 2020. More than just what's being reported on the news. And I'm telling you, as believers, examine your own life. Be man, be woman enough to step up. Man, I missed it here. Now, am I going to jettison this thing or am I going to make it work? And I'm going to make it work not for the way that I want it, but for the way that he wants it. See, because if I did something in his permissive will, then it could go either way. See, even the way we were taught, you get in and you read the Bible, you read your Bible, and you be a good little boy, you be a good little girl, and everything's going to be all right. Well, how many of our lives have gone just that way? Don't raise your hand. Just think to yourself, look at your life. People need truth nowadays. And no, I believe you guys are going to live a long time. But I don't want you to outlive your money. But I'm not promoting money. But to stay in this country, you better have yours or marry somebody that's got some. Again, this is 2020. I'm tired of being plastic. I'm tired of being fake. I'm tired of being churchy. I'm tired of that. And I'm not trying to embarrass anybody, but I'm telling you, saints, we better wake up. We better wake up. Listen to this. To give subtly to the simple, to the young man knowledge and discretion. Discretion. See, you can know a thing, but does that mean you got to go blab it all around town? Even if you see a fault or a sin, use discretion. Well, it's true. Well, we already know that don't make it right. Listen to this. A wise man will hear and will increase learning, and a man of understanding shall attain unto wise counsel. Folks, that's where we're sorely lacking. We don't give good advice. We give church advice. But we don't give good life advice. Barry, what are you saying? What I just said. We don't give good counsel. And why don't we give good counsel? We say we know Torah. Oh. I think a lot about the lives I'm not beating up on anybody, but a lot of you remember the movement about new creation realities and how so many people were going around saying, well, this one's supposed to be this and this one's supposed to be that, and people went into business together, and people got married, and people left their jobs and went full-time in the ministry, and all of that. Can you see the devastation? Now, not all of them went by the wayside, but can you imagine what some of those parents felt after they scraped and got them kids through school, and they got those school loans too? And then for somebody to turn around, yeah, you need to quit your job and get full-time in the ministry. And I'm like, if everybody is full-time in the ministry, who gonna keep the lights on? At least Marilyn Hickey did have the good sense to talk about a concept called rope holders. Rope holders are the people that work and keep the lights on so that those that want to study can continue to study uninterrupted. And they got that from, of course, first century Hebrews. And there's a difference between Jews and Hebrews. 2020, 2020. We need to put our reading glasses on and see things more clearly. To understand a proverb and the interpretation, the words of the wise and their dark sayings. Their dark sayings. Listen at this. The Proverbs of Solomon, the son of David, king of Israel, are for learning about wisdom and discipline, for understanding words, expressing deep insight, for gaining an intelligently disciplined life. Saints, we got to take some of this helter-skelter stuff out of here. Because, see, the helter-skelter stuff, yeah, it makes you feel high for a while. It's almost like a drug. And when you come down, you crash. That high you had, some of us, before we get to our car, it's gone. And you're saying, oh, my God, this Saturday evening, I ain't even made it back home, and I'm down already. Well, maybe what you was getting high about had no substance. I shouldn't say no, had low substance. Low substance. I won't say no substance. God don't make nothing that has no value. Everything has some value. We just need to learn how it's supposed to be used in this life. Listen to it. Doing what is right, just, and fair, for endowing with caution those who don't think. I believe I heard a pastor teach one time that a lot of preachers would preach on about a fourth grade level. Fourth grade level. What were they saying about us, the people sitting in the pew? They didn't think we could get it? A fourth grade level. Here you're a grown person with a family, and somebody's giving you information on a fourth grade level. And you got to go out there and face the world every day and provide for your family. And put some tithe in their plate for fourth grade teaching, for fourth grade level of understanding. And all the time, you got think tanks and everything else putting stuff together that's going to negatively affect you. But you're going and we had a high time today, church. No, I'm not against churches. Listen at this. Someone who is already wise will hear and learn still more. Someone who already understands will gain the ability to counsel well. You will gain the ability to counsel well. When people come to you, you give good advice, not church advice. You give life advice. That's what we need. He will understand proverbs, obscure expressions, the sayings and the riddles of the wise. The fear, and they have here Adonai, but the fear of Yah is the beginning of knowledge. But fools despise wisdom and discipline. The fear of Yah is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and discipline. And you know, we have foolish people in all walks of life. There are some billionaires that are foolish. There's some poor people that are foolish too, and that's a double whammy. Because at least the rich man that's foolish, he can hire enough people that'll keep him afloat, but they're going to make sure that he'll never find out that they're stealing from him all the time. Because see, again, the more you acquire, the more is required of you. So when you want to slough off your responsibility to somebody else, usually they take a little something for themselves. To coin Earth, Wind, and Fire, that's the way of the world. And a lot of you knew that song. I still play it. All right, now, it's going to get personal. My son, heed the discipline of your father, and do not abandon the teaching of your mother. And that's the same thing, daughters too. That's the same thing. Listen, we love our parents. And they did the best they could, but they weren't perfect. And a lot of us didn't realize that till we got into our late teens. I was talking with my nephew, and he likes to talk to me because I have an agreement with him. I mean, as long as it ain't nothing flat out crazy, because, you know, some young people can come up with some crazy stuff, but I want him to feel like, hey, you can talk to me about anything. And it's going to stay just between me and you. But I mean, if you planning to murder somebody, I'm not keeping that to myself. You know. And so in, you know, dealing with young people, yeah, I'll listen. And when it goes against what we are really about, I speak up. I let it, hey, yeah, you shared it. Yeah, no, I'm not going to tell it. Yeah, but you know, this is not who we are. This is not who we are. Like when I was coming up, he used to wear me out with this. Every time I did something, which was usually quite often, first thing out of y'all pastors' mouth is, did you ever see me do that? And of course the answer was no. But really what he was saying in a roundabout way, hey, we ain't that's not us. That's not who we are. I told y'all about the time, I was stealing out the store, stole a candy bar, had money in my pocket, could have paid for it. I didn't want to steal. I didn't want to pay for it. I wanted to steal it because the guys I was with was taking stuff. I won't go be left out. But I didn't say I didn't do it because they did it. I did it because I was feeling sneaky. But the lady had compassion. She didn't call the police. It was a Jewish family owned that store. Didn't call the police. But they got in contact with our parents. Now, I don't know what happened to the other guys, but I tell you, he said, which hand did you take it with? I stuck my right hand out, and I mean, with skill, precision, I think I got about 8 licks, and he hit the same spot. And after about the third one, you know that hurt. You know it hurt. But you know what? I stopped stealing. Now, I know nowadays you do something like that, social services coming in. You know. But folks, I'm trying to show you, see, if you even, and back then, we were studying the Bible. You know, that's what we would study. So it was enough in the Bible that let him know, hey, you got to do something about this, because if you don't curtail this now, he might graduate to stealing cars. Yep. And so most parents, they don't want to see their bloodline in jail, locked up, can't do nothing for the rest of the family, can't look after them in their old age. That's a consideration. And there's nothing wrong with that. See, in other cultures, like over in some Asian cultures, you got several. You got great-grandparents, grandparents, parents, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, all living in the same thing. Now, they having a time with this pandemic because you need to keep the real young away from the older. And that's all right. Listen, don't get down because you're at risk. That's okay. But use wisdom. My God. Use wisdom. I mean, my God. I could see if the medical professionals was telling us, go out and shoot 3 people every day. Well, I don't expect you to follow that. But somebody's trying to save your life. And then folks is fighting now. Those that ain't wearing it is fighting with those that is. And some of the ones that's not with, and folks, listen, when you out in public, if you wearing a mask, fine. Don't say anything to the people that's not wearing a mask, because many of them are waiting to either start an argument or a fight. Don't fall for that deception. You go in, you get whatever items you need, and you come on home. I'm serious. We gotta wake up, folks. And don't let somebody goad you. Let them make fun. Let them make fun. It's not even about, they think they got some special knowledge. Listen, I've said it before, Torah's for everybody, whether they realize it or not. Now, if they approach you, just politely say, 6 feet, please. Because some people like to get right up in your face. And I'll tell you, I'll be honest, I'm kind of mean, because see, now you're playing with your life. And let me help you here. It's against the law in America to commit suicide. But when you want to come in my space, now you don't get to do that in my life. I don't take kindly to that. And I'm saying, Father, show me how to politely say what I got to say without wanting to hurt somebody. I mean physically hurt somebody. I don't want to kill nobody, but I want to hurt people, because I'm like, you don't care about anybody but yourself. And that bothers me. I can't sleep. We should know better. My son, heed the discipline of your father, and do not abandon the teaching of your mother. They will be a garland to grace your head, a medal of honor for your neck. Again, listen, my son, and I'm adding daughter, if sinners entice you, don't go along with them. Suppose they say, come with us. We'll ambush somebody and kill him. we'll waylay some harmless soul just for fun. That's the mindset of a lot of these folks that's still throwing bricks through windows and stuff. They're not concerned about Brother Floyd. And see, it's painting a negative narrative of what a lot of people are trying to do. Folks, this conversation is very uncomfortable. I listen to a lot of sports radio because sometimes I need an escape. Because I listen to a lot of the financial things, and it just gives me a headache, and I'm like, man, I'm so tired. But I say, the rest of my folks, they just like going to church. Somebody got to keep an eye on things. See, because I ain't just looking out for my stuff, I'm looking out for your stuff too. And I'm like, man, y'all, and I do. I want my dad to live 120 years. And, and that sounds all good. But let me tell you why part of that is. Because he was called here for you all. He was called here for you all. He was called here for you all. Word to the wise sufficient. So you want him to be around a long time. And sometimes when I'm talking to him, I want to say, look at here, you ain't going nowhere to lead us on me. No, sir. Pastor, this is your congregation. No, I'm with him. I promised my mother, and I didn't even know at the time, because y'all know she ain't tell nobody nothing what was going on. But I had a conversation with her, and she was asking me all these questions. I'm like, well, what are you talking about? I was in the car driving y'all down to the church. Why are you asking me, all these questions? And then finally she said, stay with your father. And I said, I will. At the time, still not just dumb. Dumb. And so, after everything happened, then I was like, now. So, I mean, if I got to do 120, he can do 122. And seriously speaking, I have a friend that has buried her mother, her father, her sister, and her brother. And a couple of weeks ago, her nephew, which is the son of her brother, he passed. That's a lot on a person. That's a lot on a person. And I'm like, my goodness. That's heavy. And she owns a funeral home. And we were talking, and she said, she'll say Green. Now, when she want to get on my nerves, she'll say, well, Reverend, because she know that make me mad. She said, well, Green, how much does he think I can take? And I said, I don't know, but I said, I admire you. I don't know if I could do that. I don't know if I could do that. And her stress level is through the roof. She's not sleeping well or anything like that. And she's she's trying to sell the business, but right now in this market, it's a buyer's market for everything. So if you're thinking about selling your home, wait a little longer if you can. But we'll go over some of that a little later too. Folks, stuff is happening. The shift is now in play. And every one of us need to check what's really going on in our homes financially. Because a lot of us, we don't pay that in much attention. As long as we got enough to pay the mortgage, and that's if we got one, and we can pay our car note, and we can, do a few little things, we think we got it made. No, we got to do a little better than that, and we'll go over some of that later. But again, it's imperative that you use wisdom. It's imperative that I be very careful about how I responded to my friend. Because more and more, particularly in 2020, it's also showing me, hey, if you're going to be a friend, be a real friend. Talking about family dynamics. Her mother got real ill and they moved her in with them. And, sometimes the closer a person gets, sometimes they're not so pleasant. Sometimes, particularly if they've been battling with the disease or something and they're in pain and, you just irritate. You're trying to help, but you irritate them. And then sometimes as we get older, thinking get twisted. The wrong people coming to talk to you, they start saying things. Now you starting to doubt your own bloodline. Why is the person saying things that bring seeds of doubt? All your life now, they been there good, bad, and indifferent. Be careful about that kind of stuff, saints. It happens. It happens. It's real life. Married couples need to talk about, nobody likes to talk about, when they're going, but some of us, if you're a widower now, call that Social Security office, make sure you got the best deal coming. But I'll get into that later. But there's so many things, so many aspects of life that we don't concern ourselves with. We need to. We need to. And it's not that people are, what they gonna leave me? That's not it. If we're gonna live a long time, you're gonna need some finances to live. Because a miserable existence is not a very good one. Man, more and more people are outliving their retirement. What do? Well, hopefully we'll get to touch on some of that at a later time. But all of this is right here. All of this is right. All of this stuff is designed for us to implement it in our lives so we know what to say to people. And sometimes we know when to be quiet. And even more, don't give your opinion. Especially if you done struck out 15 times. Have you ever noticed all the broke people got all the financial advice? Let me tell you what you do. And I'm like, well, man, if you knew all that, why aren't you doing it? Now, I'm not saying, listen, a lot of successful people have failed, but they kept getting up. See, they kept getting up and trying and trying and trying and trying. Us church folk, we kind of getting lazy. I'm gonna show you how. We want to, and I know some of you, I don't know if it's in the Brit Hadashah or not, but Hey, he said, throw all your cares on him, for he cares for you. I'm not saying that that's not in there. But I'm telling you, with a free will comes responsibility. With a free will comes responsibility. Your responsibility. I've said it before. Yes, he has a part. He set the stage. He's given us instructions. It's up to us to implement the instructions in our life. Too many of us are sitting back. It's on you, Lord. He's saying it ain't on me. Now, y'all know what I like to quote all the time. He says, I've given you everything pertaining to life and godliness. Everything. Well, what else can you add to everything? Don't you think in that everything is a little thing called responsibility? And saints, many of us have anxiety attacks. I was at Derbyshire Baptist Church doing some work, and one of their older members came in, and I had my dad had called me. I had called him, and he called me back, and I always feel good. I like to tell him where I am. But now, if I'm in the club or at the movie theater, I just tell him I'm working. But if I'm in a church, I figure that'd probably make him happy. So I said, yeah, well, I'm here at Derbyshire Baptist Church. Because life don't get no better for him. I mean, it can, he just don't think so. I'd like to see him more on the golf course and doing some stuff that he would like to do. But, that's a time for another story. And I hope to have some conversations with him about that. But that'll come later. But an elderly lady came in. I keep talking about elderly lady. She probably was about maybe 15, 20 years older than me, And was bringing her in because they were doing some renovations in the church. And she was talking about how she had an anxiety attack. And she called the ambulance, and they came in and they checked all her vitals and everything. And she said she was feeling better and whatever. And they said, well, ma'am, we'll take you to the hospital if you want, or to the emergency room if you want. And but she told them no. But then her doctor, I guess, later called, and they were asking questions. But folks, all of us are having anxiety attacks. Oh, sometimes you just feel anxious because you don't know what to do next. And then what you're doing, you're wondering, is this working? Stay the course. Stay the course. Stay the course. Sometimes you got to go back and start reading a little bit more. Okay, calm yourself. Calm yourself and watch your emotions. Watch your emotions. Please don't make decisions when you all emotional, good or bad. Because you usually end up making the wrong one. Don't let somebody create a situation. I got to know now. Here's a safe answer. Anytime they tell you, I got to know now, and I need to know right now, the answer's no. And I guarantee you'll get some more time. Because that's not the answer they were looking for. Every time, when you are being rushed, when you're being ushered into to do a certain thing, I don't care what it is, be it permissible or not. No. Give yourself time to examine that thing. And you may gain back some wonderful sleep instead of, oh God, why did I do this? That's a terrible way to live. mm, mm. Mm, mm, mm. Mm. Listen to this. In 16, their feet run to evil. They rush to blood to shed blood, for in vain is the net baited. If any bird can see it, rather they are ambushing themselves to shed their own blood, waylaying themselves. See, when there's a lot of confusion and a lot of misdirection, see, a lot of people are good at misdirection. They don't want you to look over here, so they start something here. What they don't want you to know their agenda until it's too late. So they might cause a commotion over here, and all the time, while your attention is over here, they slip right in. And before you, where you come from? How did this get set up like this? I'm inside 5 minutes, and I will close with this. I mean, we'll continue, but I will close with this. Listen, as a congregation, now I'm speaking as an assistant pastor, a real leader, not an informal leader. Informal leaders do not make church policy. Informal leaders do not speak for Emmanuel Worship Center. I don't know if Brenda still proofreads things that go out. No announcements, no flyers are to go out until somebody reads them to make sure they're grammatically correct, make sure that the leadership is in agreement with it. Don't take anything upon yourself. Our Facebook page, you can put whatever you want on your Facebook page, but not Emmanuel Worship Centers. Nobody is to do that. Now, I'm going to chalk it up to people that know any better. Well, now you've heard. Don't do that. I'm going to check with Brenda to see if she's still proofreading stuff. Saints, messaging is so important now. The reason why I'm sitting here with this mask across my face is because I want people to return here, but I want them to know it's safe to come here. We're following proper protocol. We value life here. And let me say this again, I've said to you before, I am not a you preacher. That includes myself as well. Your personal Facebook page, you put whatever you want on it. But be careful what you put, because when you put it on Emmanuel Worship Center, you're saying you're speaking for the whole church. You don't get to do that. You don't do that with any organization you belong to. You check with somebody. I didn't even know we had a Facebook page. Saints, messaging is important. God bless you.